Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I thought I would do a video about some of the books that I have DNF'd so far this year. Sorry about noise in the background, my kitten is playing in here. I DNF a lot, so I am not including the romance I read and any books that I basically don't remember anything about what they're about. I'm just doing the ones that I can vaguely remember why I stopped reading them. I'm gonna try to work on my editing skills, start learning how to do more things. So I think I'm gonna try to put photos of the books like you see a lot of people do. We'll see if I can manage it, but if I can, then I'll try putting them right here or something. So I have a list of about 20 books here, and that's less than half of the ones that I've DNF'd this year. But the first one is Nama's Kiss by Jacqueline Carey. Jacqueline Carey has this really beautiful writing style. I definitely plan to try out more books from her, but this one just felt like there wasn't enough happening for me. I don't mind slow-paced books, but this one almost felt like it was just pretty writing. I'm sure there was more once the story got going, but I got far enough in it that it didn't seem worth it to try to find out what was gonna happen. The next one is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. This one, I just didn't care about the characters. I don't know why, but it was there was interesting stuff happening, but I would be reading and it was just I really don't care what happens to these characters, which is surprising because I feel like this book, for a lot of people, it was the characters that drew them in. So I'm not really sure why I didn't connect with them, but yeah. Number 3 is Something Wicked, This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. This is a pretty old book. Ray Bradbury is a well-known and beloved author, so I was excited to read this, but I don't think I'm even gonna check out any of his other books because the writing style was just so off from what appeals to me. I remember I DNF'd this book really quick. I don't even know anything that happens in it really, because I just got shortly into it and I was like, I can't handle this writing. And I'm sure it's nothing to do with the author, it's me, it's just not my style. Another book that I DNF'd was Kill the Queen by Jennifer Estep. I think that's how you say that last name. This one I might end up giving another shot, but the thing that had me DNF it is I picked it up by random at Barnes & Noble when I was just checking out the fantasy section, and the plot line seemed interesting to me, but then when I started reading it, it had a really YA feel to me, and I love YA books. It was just that wasn't what I was looking for from this book. So I think maybe if I go into it with the right mindset, then I might be able to enjoy it. I'm not sure. If anyone's read that one, let me know what you thought. Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. I remember when I was in high school, this author was really talked about. I think she wrote the Shiver series, or maybe that was just the name of the first book. I had never read anything by her, but this is my first one that I attempted, and this was another book that I couldn't connect to any of the characters, and there was 4 different perspectives, and they were all these 4 brothers. And I don't have any issues with guy perspectives or anything. A lot of the books I read have those, so I'm not really sure what the problem was. My cat knocked down my phone, so sorry if the angle's a little bit different. I think there was one that I liked some of the aspects of his plot line, but I remember it wasn't enough to make up for the lack of connection with his personality. But yeah, so that was it for that one. The next one was The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi. This was another one that I really enjoyed the writing style. It was really beautiful, and I did like the main character, but it was a fantasy romance, and there wasn't enough of I didn't feel any connection between the 2 main characters. So once I got to that realization, I was just half of the point of this book isn't working for me, so I just stopped. Number 7 is The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. I was excited to check out her books This was the first one that I had tried from her. I do have a couple others that I am gonna be giving a shot, but this was another one that the writing style was really hard to like immerse myself in. I felt like I was just pushing through reading and wasn't envisioning what was going on, I suppose. And also the series is like really long, so it's like if I'm struggling this hard, like this quick into the book, I don't know if like I can bring myself to dedicate that much effort and time into it. This next one, I was really disappointed. It was Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I had heard amazing things about this book, and I really enjoyed like the first chunk of it. The writing style was beautiful. I enjoyed the plot line. And I felt like the main character was someone who like I could see and like understand. But once I got through that first section, a big part of the story changed, and I was like, no, I was enjoying that and I don't care about this. So I just was like, I think I like rage quit, and I was like, this isn't what I want, and just stopped. For those that have read that one and like gone through and finished it, if the later part of the book is still like really good, let me know and I might give that one another shot. But number 9 is The Radleys by Matt Haig. I'm not sure why I picked this one up, because it, like the thing that made me DNF it was that I realized I wasn't interested in the plot, or like not the plot, but like the base setting. It's like vampires in suburbia, and it was just not something that interested me. I don't know why I picked it up in that case. It kind of reminded me of this TV show with Drew Barrymore where she's like this suburban mom and she ends up becoming a zombie. And I wasn't interested in that either. So I should have just known that this wasn't something that would appeal to me. The next one is The Broken Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. And again, my phone was attacked. But I have read one of her other books, and I don't remember what it was called, but I did enjoy it like mid-level. So that's why I was open to trying some more of her stuff. But this one just didn't draw me in at all. I think that the main character just wasn't someone who I was like excited to root for. But I do remember thinking that the writing was really nice. So if someone has like some other books of hers that they recommend, then I am all ears, because I do want to enjoy her books. I just haven't had the best of luck so far. The next one is Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. This one was recommended This one was recommended by like a lot of the romance booktubers that I've seen. I think like I saw like 3 different ones, which is pretty much all the ones that I'm subscribed to of the romance genre. It is a fantasy romance, but when I read it, I got partway through and I was like, this just kind of feels like generic fantasy romance that I've already read multiple versions of. But there was like a really cool aspect to the main character. She did interest me in like what she was. I haven't read a lot of this genre where like the main girl is something more than just like a normal human. And that was actually part of what drew me into the book. It just wasn't enough for me to make up for the parts that were letting me down. Number 12 is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I read the Cruel Prince trilogy and the latest one, The Stolen Heir, which is like the beginning of a new trilogy in the same world. And I really enjoyed those 4 books. But this one, I didn't realize going into it, I guess the setting, and it's more in our world. And I generally don't like fantasy books like that. I prefer like being in a whole new setting. So once I realized that, I tried to push through a little bit, but it just wasn't for me. The next one is Stormcaster by Cinda Williams Chima. I read the 7 Realms series and I loved those 4 books. This was the Shattered Realms series. I think it was like book 3, but there is like a new aspect to the world compared to the first series, and it felt like it made things more convoluted, and it felt like it also kind of took away some of the like magic. Like, not that it took magic out of the book, but like the enjoyment, I guess, of the magic system. It felt like it kind of ruined some of it. And also there was a lot more perspectives in this series compared to the original, which I don't always mind, but there wasn't enough time spent on each of the characters for me to really connect with them. And so even though I would get interested in them, it was like, okay, now you're never gonna see them again. And I was like, oh. So I just decided to stop at this point. Number 14 is The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. I read the first 2 books in this series, A Deadly Education and don't remember the second name, but I liked those. I really loved the first one, and the second one was pretty good. It wasn't as good as the first for me, but I wanted to continue on and see if like the third would make up and keep the series as like a favorite, because it was like a favorite book series for me. But in the third book, the plot point of it, like what was going on and what the main character was trying to achieve, felt like kind of dull for me. I just didn't care about the main character like achieving her goals. So I was like, why am I reading this if I'm not rooting for her to succeed, you know? My favorite new author for me is Adrienne Young. I've read like 3 of her books this year and I've loved them all. But this next one is The Girl the Sea Gave Back, and that one was a bit of a disappointment. It's set in the same world as Sky in the Deep, which was my favorite of the 3 books I read by her. But this one and the different people like in her town didn't interest me as much. And then also there was some like themes, I guess, of the first book that I really enjoyed, and I felt like you could feel them early on. And this book might have it later on in it, but it didn't start as early if it does, and so it felt like a little lacking compared to the first one in the, I guess, sort of series. They're more kind of like standalones, but either way. The next one is Upon a Burning Throne by Ashok K. Banker, and I was so excited when I started reading this one because like the prologue and the first couple chapters, I think it was, I thought were so good. I was so interested in them. And I did like the chapters of the perspectives from those couple first chapters. But a little bit in, there was another perspective that was introduced, and I was so bored by it, even though it was the most actiony, which I found really strange. Like, you would think the more actiony chapters would be a little bit more exciting, but it was kind of the opposite for me. I really liked the character development, or just getting to know them, of the other characters that I got in the other chapters. But in this one, it just felt like you weren't getting to know the character, you were just seeing what they were doing, and it kind of ruined my experience. Number 17 is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. And this one was a pretty quick DNF. It's actually, I think, my most recent DNF. And the main issue that I had was I was interested in the plot line a lot, and the 2 male perspectives were intriguing to me, but the main, like, I think it was, she's like the main character, the main girl, and her perspective got on my nerves. She would have like important things going on and then just was really boy focused. Not even having met like those characters, it was just like always on her mind. And so it just got annoying for me. So I had to put that one down. I think it might have been a little bit on the younger side of YA, so maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it. House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This one is a 12 Dancing Sisters retelling. I think that's what the fairy tale is called. And I DNF'd this one pretty quick too. This is one that I might give another shot, I'm not sure. So this one, I think it was actually the setting that didn't really work for me. I kind of like the main character, but anytime any kind of description of the world happened, I was just kind of like, okay, you know? And it's interesting because I feel like it mainly just made me want to read a book I read years ago, I think when I was in high school. It was called Entwined. It was another 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and so it just made me think of that book, and I kind of remember enjoying it. I don't know if it's going to be another one that like I just enjoyed it because I was younger and maybe I wouldn't now that I'm older, but I'm thinking about giving that one another shot. And I am sad because the second book in this series looked interesting from the plot line, but I don't know if I can push through this one to get to that one. This is another retelling that kind of just made me want to pick up another book. It's Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I heard a lot of good things about this book, but I also heard it's like very sweet, and I should have like taken that more into account because I don't think I generally enjoy just purely sweet fantasy books like Enchantment of Ravens I liked, but then just like the pure sweetness kind of didn't make it something I loved enough to bother owning. So with this one, the sweetness with it again kind of left me lacking in like the emotional connection. It kind of reminded me of a Studio Ghibli movie though, so I guess maybe that would work for some people because I do love Studio Ghibli movies, but I just don't think that it works for me book-wise. But the book that it made me want to pick up would actually be a reread, and it's Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. That is, like this one, it is also a Six Swans retelling, and it is beautiful and emotional and has a good romance, and so I just loved that one. So I think maybe a part of it was like, oh, this can't live up to that one. So that could be just bias, I don't know. Number 20, the last one on this list, is Soundless by Rochelle Mead. This is like a Asian setting folklore inspired book, and it's about like this town that everyone is deaf after something magical happened in it, and then also people start going blind, and it sounded interesting. Like I had never seen a setting like that before, but when I read it, like there was aspects of the town that just turned me off of it, I guess. I think the like over traditionalist style of the town just kind of bored me. I tend to like when there's issues in a town, I tend to like it to be a little bit more intense. Whereas the things that were going on was like a lot slower paced than what I was used to. And I just kind of felt bored with it. And it wasn't like a book that I had heard anything about, which isn't an issue. I like to read indie books or just like random things I find at the library. But since I wasn't like really feeling it, and I also hadn't heard people being like, no, it's good, push through, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna bother. But yeah, so that's the last of my DNF so far this year. From this list, I definitely have done a lot more than that, but this video would be way too long if I went through all of them. So thank you for watching. Bye.